It's a week since my last tree walk on the Camp Ranch campus of Frank School. These are walnut trees, and they indicate where there's foundations, where there were foundations. That one down there that's all broken at the top, the top blew off, but it sort of pollarded itself, and it's coming back. Now these, they look a lot the same, but those are locusts, and I planted them purposely along that. But there's a lot of walnuts. Almost every one of the old walnuts indicates that there had been there was a foundation there, and probably still is. There don't seem to be many walnuts, nuts themselves, on these trees this year. I don't know if you can see. I just don't, a lot of years you just see them hanging down everywhere. There's walnuts going out through there. Well, I want to tell you about a few special trees. I mean, these two are indicating a foundation. That one is. Those two probably are. These younger walnuts, they probably indicate foundations too. This, I thought, is a curious thing to see. I'm just not sure what that vine is, what kind it is, but somebody else maybe would know. I'd have to get up to see the leaves. Well, I can't tell, but isn't that something? That's a boxwood. This is about all that's left of what was once a gorgeous pinetum, but it wasn't here. A pinetum is like an arboretum devoted to evergreens or needle trees. And in front of Bedford Middle School, I got a grant, and we planted. Now there's some of the remains of it. The goats ate them, but as I said before, the goats won't eat boxwood. But this ground, we tried to save them. They had to tear it out because they were afraid terrorists or some guy with a rifle would hide in among all the evergreen trees. But we won an award for the town that month for that garden that we did. It was really nice. I'd gathered up every kind of evergreen I could find that grew in this area that the nurseries had. Now I want to, and that old cherry tree, there were two of them there. Maybe I said this before. This ground, you just can't lose sight of how poor this ground is. Now cherry leaves are poisonous to cows once they fall off and they wilt. So when I had cows, I wasn't that sorry to, well, I was sorry. All right, I want to show you about these walnuts around the house. That one, you can see, got hit by lightning. Hit and immediately killed, seemingly. But we didn't cut it down, and it pretty clearly is recovering. It's coming back. But there was just almost no hope for that. But and now another one that got hit by lightning is this one right here. Right there, my son's bedroom is right in the house right behind that. Boy, it split. I think it split a beam inside the house. It really smacked the house when the lightning hit that one. Didn't kill it either though. Did it some damage. This one has moved a little bit. You can see when I built that roof, I built it around the tree because my mother never would have let me cut these trees down as I added onto the house. And the tree gradually grew away from the house. And this one over here, now I built a roof right around it. Again, my mother never would have allowed me to cut these down. I wouldn't have wanted to anyway. But I wouldn't have planted a tree that close to the foundation. But what you can't tell is that the foundation is back about 2 feet or 3 feet from there. What you're seeing that's wood is an overshot in the floor. Maybe I can show it to you. That's that same tree. And here you can see how I overshot the joists. See, that's not actually touching the ground. The foundation itself is back there where around where the bricks start. Well, here you can see very clearly what I did. And I did that because here was another walnut that my mother would not have let me cut down, and I would not have cut it down myself either. And again, I built the roof right around it. Now the fact that there's a bigger space on the right than there is on the left, my son thinks it's because the wind started to take that down. I would have taken some of the house with it. Oh well, I can build. Anyway, you can see I just built right in around these trees. Now we're going over to that maple. That maple just refuses to give up. It volunteered. I never would have planted a tree so close to a foundation as that is, and so it must have volunteered. And you can see many places where I cut it off and I cut it off, and it's actually growing. It would always keep growing back, and it would grow right around the roof. I hope you can see that. I'm going to let it go. Like I say, I can build. It's kind of embracing the end of that rafter. Interesting. Not a quitter. And the soil is not really that good anyway. And of course the reason you don't do this is because it cracks the foundation. And this foundation, well, I didn't do it, but it has mortar in it. And you know, a hard mortar, so it would be prone to crack, but it hasn't yet. Now we're going to go up there. I don't believe I was the one that cut them off. I might have been those branches, but look at the way they bled. Anyway, this is a mulberry. This is a mulberry. There's quite a story to it. It was I transplanted it over here from my wife's father's farm, where he had one. They're usually not liked because they drop a berry that stains everything extremely, cars for example. But this ground here is so poor that it grew just about a third as fast as the one over in my father-in-law's farm. Interesting tree. Of course, if you know anything about silk, you know it's mulberry leaves that are needed to feed the silkworm. And speaking of maples, there's a beautiful maple, and I believe I planted that. My mom used to always just buy trees, and when you could get them for hundreds for almost nothing, she'd buy hundreds from the Conservation Corps. Oh, I knew they weren't going to make it. I did my best. That really, really old apple tree is not doing well, clearly. I don't know if that's going to survive or not. Now this well house, I call it, there's a dug well in the middle of it that I redug it. It had been filled, stones pushed into it, and it filled, but it kept leaking water anyway out the top when it got really wet. So I cleaned it out and relined it with the stones. It's a dug well. It's probably 20 feet deep. But I'm mentioning it now because there's a tree that keeps growing inside it. I haven't had time to get back around to finishing it. But let's go down and look. We're inside it, and I can see that it's not. I don't think it's the tree. I think the tree finally did give up. But now I wish a little bit I just left it and just let it grow right up the top. But vines are climbing all up through it. I guess these are vines. Those I'm not sure what. Oh, there's a tree. There's a tree. I wonder what kind that is. It doesn't leap. Let's get closer. No, I just can't automatically think what kind of a tree that is. Elm comes to mind because of the serrated margin on the leaves. I don't know what that is. And it's almost certainly the same as that tree. I'm going to just let it there. See what it does. You know, eventually I'll finish this building. I'll probably let it just grow out the top. Don't know what that tree is. There's another one of those damaged old walnuts. We had to cut that limb off because it was growing across the lane. And that one where there's a bell hanging from it, if you can see that, that one, the wind did that. But they recover. And these, That's one of the oldest walnuts on the place, and they all and down there's one. They all indicate old foundations. Now this maple, I think I planted that probably many years ago. It was a terrible place to plant it, but when I first came here, and Mom kept buying these trees, I didn't know where to plant them. I didn't have much of an idea about where the foundations were. Now that chimney that goes up through there, it doesn't do those leaves much good, or branches or buds much good when I fire it up in the winter, but it doesn't seem like it's going to stop the tree. That's an ash. It died, maybe 10 years ago, as all the ashes did. Virtually all of them in the northeast of the United States died of a disease. Boy, it was a beauty. I remember my mom saying, boy, it'll be a shame if that tree ever dies, because it just commanded the presence here. My neighbor, Andy, neither he nor I really know if there's going to be any good wood inside that, or how fast ash rots up. But we'll find out. It's a work in progress, though. Here are 6 sycamores. My mom, I didn't actually plant these. She had them done professionally twice, because the first time they died. Second time the guys weren't happy, but they planted them. They weren't happy with what they were having to plant it in. Well, now I understand better. They were planting them right in a road. And it didn't help any when I got this field caught on fire. That burnt the buds, and I wasn't so sure these upper 2 were going to survive. Plus, I let stuff grow up all around them. I just didn't have time to protect them as I should. But of the 4, this is the one that's in the worst shape. But it's going to make it, I think. And of course, there we've got Russian olive coming up, but as we did before. But I'll prune it away. Sycamores really like wet ground, and down here's wet ground. And the wetter it was, the healthier they look. But now with my irrigation system in place over here, I can keep this ground wet as well. When I get down here a little bit more, I'll show you what the leaves look like. But maybe before the leaves, the bark is such a delight. In England, in Europe, they're called plane trees, London plane trees. St. James Park, between Westminster Abbey and Buckingham Palace. St. James Park has some very famous ones. It's called exfoliating bark. It drops off, and then the new bark shows, and so you get that patchwork. You can see it on these 2 really well, because they've done so well here. These other ones, well, you can see it a little bit, but here, this one is now, since I freed it up by pruning the stuff out away from it, it's really taken off. You can see the leaves look a little bit like maple leaves. This is later in the year, and the trees aren't looking at their best at this time of year, but anyway, these are sycamores. There's a black walnut. I'm going out the end of the lane. I'm still filming because I'm going to come right over here, and this will probably be, no, it won't be the last. Here is an elm. I was saying that tree up there looked like an elm. This has got those serrated edges to the leaves, and I'll probably leave it here. Now this slippery elm, I think is what you call it, not to be confused with American elm, which were largely just killed off by the Dutch elm disease. Now that's a hickory, and right over here, just about the same distance from the end of the lane, is another hickory, the same age. Let's walk by this one, and I have to wonder about that. That would just been an accident. I suspect that somebody planted them, these 2. And although the walnuts aren't doing well, here's hickory nuts. Here you can see some hickory nuts, and that's the way a hickory leaf looks. This is shagbark hickory. Shagbark. There's another one called shellbark hickory. All right, I think that's going to end I'm just trying to think over on my neighbor's property. Are there any trees there? Well, there's a planted stand of spruces, but I don't think there's any trees over there that I haven't mentioned already. All right, and bye for now.